Awesome, man. Yeah, likewise here. Got a good chance to touch some grass. Came back from touching grass to just the absolute craziness of this weekend. Without getting into the politics and anything like that, definitely impacted the market. I think in a positive manner overall. I mean, you could see directly after the assassination attempt, crypto just took off in line with a lot of the claims that Trump was making earlier this year, being pro crypto. So pretty exciting for us to be back above the 60K threshold here. Definitely, want to make sure we get the confirmation on strength. It looks like runes are still lagging a little bit. But this is again, just sort of initial reaction to everything. It's Monday after all, but yeah, it looks like crypto might be getting some legs here. You seeing it the same way, Waf, or any different thoughts?
I am. I mean, we're back in range, right? We're at 63,500, more or less. So that chop that we had, and then we lost the support on below 60, but now we're back over and everything is seemingly very bullish again. It's amazing. Like we do this show each week, and it feels like it's like dog weeks or something, because it's like extremely bearish one week and then extremely bullish the following week. And it seems like this Monday is a bullish one, that's for sure.
Yeah, big time, man. And I mean, I think you're right on the dog weeks. It is the Boss Dog show after all. So shout out to all the dogs listening in. But yeah, I mean, we really are just kind of whipsawing back and forth. I think that's why I'm trying not to get too bowled up or bared up either way. I close out my shorts that I had open once we passed the 60K threshold on Bitcoin, went long on Bitcoin past 60K. Which has been playing out pretty decent. Definitely looking to take some profits as we go closer to 64 and 65K. I mean, notably, Germany is done with their selling of Bitcoin. They had a huge reserve, so that's officially zeroed out. That's a major catalyst cleared. Obviously, the Mount Gox stuff has already happened, so there might be some gradual selling, but I would say at this point it's somewhat priced in. And obviously, with the Trump now being pretty favorable in the polls, it seems like crypto is going to get a little bit of a boost. So we'll certainly see. It seems like we should be going a little bit higher here. Some of the BRC20s that I follow, we're definitely getting a nice bounce just following crypto, but there's still some runes that are kind of sidelining. So I don't think we're fully bullish yet across the board. Definitely some major altcoins like MOG and WIF rebounded pretty nicely off of their lows. And it looks like, most of the market is green here, but we'll see. I think once Bitcoin can reclaim that 70K, that's probably when we're going to start to see some serious strength going on in ordinals and runes. But for now, it's a little bit, light footing.
Ross, I think you got my cheat sheet over there, man. You just hit on like everything I wanted to discuss real quick. I mean, Germany has no more BTC. People are trolling them and sending them some sats. It's kind of funny. I mean, Donald Trump, he speaks at Bitcoin Nashville in 10 days. So just imagine um, the run up potentially from here till then, and then what could happen after we have Donald Trump being pro crypto and bullish on Bitcoin and he just kind of announced his vice president JD Vance, also Bitcoin friendly. It just seems like what we've been waiting for. We're like literally like right there. We're at the 5 yard line. We're about to push it in. It just seems like everything is coming together. Even despite the bearishness last week, we knew it was due to the German selling. ETF inflows were like crazy. They were like over a billion, and then we got the Ethereum ETF coming next week. Another bullish indicator for the market. And just like as you were mentioning BRC20s, I've been noticing a lot of up volume on BRC20s. Like Sats have been up 68% this week. Ordi's up like 25%. Even Merlin chain is up almost 20%. Pups was up 35% in the last 24 hours. Track also is up 20%. Wizard up 14. So there's like a lot of things happening in the BRC20 world that are about to pop off. That's why I think we're seeing a lot of that volume there. And then finally, let's get to runes. I mean, today is probably the first day I've seen a rune, I guess, recovery. I seen cats in the sats up like 80%, pups world peace 36. Anarcho Cat Bus $34 billion cat is up 27% today in terms of USD, but I think 20% up against Bitcoin. So it's a nice recovery day. I don't want to get too excited quite yet, too, but I do feel like the real catalysts are closer than ever.
Yeah, very well said there, Wap. I do agree with you. I really think the catalysts are right around the corner. It certainly seems like with Trump at Bitcoin Nashville, we could get some really nice sound bites out of that. And again, this is not a political slant in any way or another, but just knowing his track record, he really tends to emphasize things and is very grandiose in his support of topics that he will endorse. So we already heard him this year really endorse crypto, but we've yet to see him speak at a solely crypto related event. So something like that, if he wants to declare that the US is going to get a heavy involvement within crypto, like some of these other countries who have been heavily investing or accumulating or, adopting it as an additional currency, any sort of headline that he might say, whether or not that's actually going to be his real policy if he were to take office, it could certainly cause headlines in a positive manner there. I think it's probably more likely that he says something positive in favor and endorsement of crypto as opposed to against it, especially just given that he's going to the conference to speak. So that could really be a major catalyst. Again, here, I think it's just a really good risk reward. I don't want to get too bold up. Again, I think it's always just important to realize where the resistance levels are. And I do that if we were to fall again below 59K, I would probably look to switch short. But in this time being, when we just crossed that 60K, I do think we have a lot of momentum to run. And, there are some now serious headline catalysts that we can consider that might propel us past that 70K. And I think once we see that and people say, hey, Bitcoin's finally it's on the road to 100K, then we're really going to start to see a lot of investment again in the Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I was playing devil's advocate a little earlier today on Jake and Bake, Wake and Bake, Wake, whatever we call Jake show. But what if Donald Trump like kind of ditches crypto? I don't really think he's actually going to do that. It is on his Republican Party platform as one of the bullet points about being pro Bitcoin and being anti central bank digital currency. So I do think the catalysts are like right here. Um, I'd be remiss not to talk about ordinals. Ordinals have been relatively stable. I did see someone make comments about that in the ordinals chat, but I've seen a couple of I want to say random collections popping off like pretty large gains. Like Based Angels today is up like almost 100%. Billy Cats is up close to 50. And then you got that Uniworld's Key of Destiny still doing pretty well, holding up at like 0.005. Commoners, that was a hot mint a few months back. That's up 100% today. Alien Ordinal Artifacts also up almost 150% today. Not huge volume, but when you see like these little offshoots in collections, I think people are just buying up the floors and getting ready for runs, and they're kind of like picking their collections to sweep, and that could be like one of the triggers for the next ordinals run, in my opinion.
100% laugh. And I mean, we've talked about the different categories of buyers here before. And I think the bucket that we were placing when crypto was dumping the last couple of weeks was we were front running it, right? We were saying, hey, we're going to dollar cost average into these names that you and I both know and love. So stuff like Billion Dollar Cat, stuff like Wizard, where we just said, hey, the conviction's here. It's just a matter of when the market rips, this is going to rip. We were there, but we recognized that there was another class of buyers who wait for that confirmation candle. They start to see the volume trickle in. They're waiting for that confirmation to get going. So I think this is where we have the entry of that second class of buyers. So Bitcoin's going higher. There's major inflows, a lot of volume coming out. So we're going to start to see some of that trickle into ordinals. We're going to start to see some of that trickle into rune, cause larger volume confirmations. And then from that, as long as things continue to trend upward, we would expect to see that continue. It's interesting though, Af, like the collections that you're pointing out that are running are just very obscure collections. I know Based Angels, I think the reason they're running is I think they were one of the first collections to bridge over to Solana, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's something there where they are now a multi-chain project. So people enjoyed that. I saw a brief mention on the timeline earlier in the week. But commoners, which I remember that was an early ordinals project, did fine for like a day, but it's kind of just not very noteworthy in my mind. I don't think it's that interesting a project. I don't think the art is that good. To see that go 100%, it really just shows people are speculating into this cheap stuff. So I think it's a matter of time. If that trajectory continues, we would like to see that trickle into some major projects. Obviously, node monkeys, puppets, quantum cats, the stuff that we talk about here, like it's our bread and butter. I would expect to see some kind of follow through coming up on those projects shortly.
Yeah, the collections we always talk about are up like slightly for the week, so not that much to talk about there. I mean, Node Monkeys is still 0.169. It's essentially the same price that it was last week. Same thing with the puppets and quantum cats and OMBs, that they're holding pretty steady. I would say the one that really took a dive was Blob, and I think that was due to the epic rune drop. I think that was kind of disappointing, and people just dumped the collection. Um, but yeah, it seems like we're pretty much Ordinals will be the last to run, like we've always been saying. I do see this volume coming in today on runes. Let's just see if it winds up being sustainable. But I think ultimately right now the focus is on Bitcoin and the ETF inflows, and like that money really hasn't trickled in quite downstream yet. But give it some time. If we can, flirt with the all-time high maybe in 2 weeks during the Bitcoin Nashville event, then maybe we'll see runes and ordinals and BRC20s have a little bull season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is pretty common for these kinds of collections. I mean, one collection notably that ran a lot, not Bitcoin or ordinals, but on-chain Gaias. Those are on the base network. Shout out to Mac Attack there for his field report way back when. I mean, there's still a 3 to 5x from where he posted, but those fell down to like 0.11 and are already back to point 0.3 in a matter of 2 days. So really just crypto going bullish. People kind of layer in again with the confirmation of how firm those prices are. So as mentioned earlier, we're here at 63. It's definitely looking bullish for crypto, but this happened to us, I think, maybe 9 days ago, which is so crazy. But 9 days ago, 60K, we were at like 61. We were saying we were back, and then the rug got pulled from under it. Bitcoin really went into the mid 50K range there. So I think people right now are just a little hesitant to make any big moves. Definitely start to see some prices going up today. So it's nice to see stuff like Billion Dollar Cat, where it's up from yesterday, from 28 million market cap back to 36 million market cap, with Bitcoin prices continuing to go up. So anything that's holding a floor or going up as Bitcoin increases in price, that's great. But it really, I do think, takes a little euphoria going in the market to get people excited to buy again. So I don't think we're quite at that level yet, but we are definitely close.
Your volume on Billion Dollar Cat has still been pretty solid. I mean, it's still number two behind Dog Go to the Moon, which is holding pretty steady as well. Just waiting for that catalyst. Like once Dog Go to the Moon makes its initial or second run at a billion, I think we'll see runes really pop off. Though there's one rune I want to talk about is Algoris Athora. That's like that prediction market one. So it hit like all-time high today, and it's only like a 500K market cap, but it's up to like $4.77. It pretty much doubled today. So that could be an interesting one. It goes back to that whole utility narrative on runes. I think really that's a kind of a bucket you got to pay attention to. Is utility, especially with BRC20s potentially on the cusp of releasing some type of swap functionality backed by Binance. I think Runes is gonna like have to come up with their own thing too to kind of compete with the whole utility narrative that I think BRC20 is about to enter as well.
100%. I mean, anything that can, have a seamless interaction for users is really going to be important there. But it's nice, and I definitely like the call out on just keeping an eye on runes with some utility. But runes with utility move, there's a good chance we see other runes move with it. And I think a lot of what we've seen with crypto is that we're very spread out. It's something that we've talked about a lot over the past couple of weeks, but there's so many collections that have run this year that people are probably looking to move money into places with opportunities. So the more collections that we see with runes, be it utility, non-utility, if we see some more runners popping off there, there's a good chance that we see eyes on runes and people shift over there. And we saw that in the beginning of June, right? Everyone was like, oh man, it is rune June. We saw a few runes pop off 5 to 10x from just off mint. And then a lot of money just started trickling into the ecosystem and then slowly died down. So again, just if there are these opportunities in the market where people can tell their friends and broadcast on social media, hey, I'm making 5 to 10 X's, doesn't matter what the project is, as long as there are runes that are doing that, it's overall something to keep an eye on, because if one goes, then it's a lot easier for more and more to go after.
Yeah, I agree. And plus, like, we had the fear and greed index like pretty low and people were kind of down, and Bitcoin has rebounded pretty much without the euphoria. So we still have plenty of time. We talked about RSI, I believe, like last week or the week before. We're at a low RSI on Bitcoin, and we're starting to feel like that bullishness. I think like funding on like perpetuals is essentially negative, so people are still kind of short Bitcoin. So I just think like these are going to be factors to consider the run. Like we're not at the end of a run. I think we're at the beginning of a run, at least in the short term. So I do think once Bitcoin goes up, the whole system will benefit the whole ecosystem. And so I'm looking to add like to the same coins to my bags that I have conviction on. Billion Dollar Cat being like top on the list for the moment, and I think I do think Dog Go to the Moon is probably a good buy here in the 7 sat range. Wouldn't be mad about adding that. I did see Decentralized has now kind of had a little run up. It's now come back down. They have this Genesis Ordinal collection. The supply is only 222. You need to hold a Promethean and have 1 million decentralized rune tokens to mint. What are your thoughts on that collection?
I catch some flack for saying this, and I've said it before. I'm just not as bullish on decentralized as other people. I think they nailed it in terms of they got Rune 2, they got a really nice market cap, and a lot of people adopted it. I think they have a really good ticker for runes. But I just think in general, it's showing that CyberKongs is pivoting off their original project. I mean, it's like they had CyberKongs, they were the OGs in the space. They were one of the most successful NFTs of all time back in ETH days. But for them to pivot over here, they had the decentralized, and they had the airdrop. The price is kind of down, and now they're just saying, okay, well, we have to pivot, so we're going to release a small collection of ordinals. And it's just a weird range. Again, like 222. I get it. They don't want to do too much of a cash grab. They don't want to inflate the supply too much. But in order to sort of encourage people to buy a ton of decentralized in order to mint, and then it's such a supply number that you're really going to have such a small community, I think they're kind of isolating people. I probably would have gone with 2,222. That way more people could have joined. It would have had a little bit more volume. With such a small supply, that number always kind of makes me fearful that it's going to just fade into the background. If there's not a ton of traction, if there's not just crazy volume after the first couple of days, people are probably going to forget about it and look at other things. And it's very difficult with only 222 to have a strong community. It's not impossible. If the people who all have it are big brains and there's just amazing alpha in there, it could be the next proof pass for all we know. And have a crazy market price, and then the price of decentralized could pump from there. But barring any intel that they're giving out or any real benefit to people who are getting this ordinal, I'm personally not super bullish on decentralized. It's one that I haven't really too deep into.
Yeah, I think your sentiments reflect the market and the community right now, because if you look at the price of Prometheans, it's down 7.5% today. It's at 0.0037. So it's kind of like pretty much at its low or close to its low. And then decentralized rune is down 15% today too. So I think people kind of calculated the buy-in for this and said like this is not worth it to hold this and to go for it. And I think they just dumped their assets. So maybe they need to kind of pivot and come up with a better idea. I do like your idea of maybe 2,222 as opposed to 222. It just seems a little bit too exclusive. And I know we talk about this, a few times where I don't really believe in the small collections on Bitcoin too much. Especially it doesn't have any like significance in terms of being like a sub 1K inscription or anything like that. So I just feel like it's sort of like an artificially low supply to try and create rarity and exclusivity, and that doesn't really exist there. So probably a bad call by the team. Will be interesting nonetheless to see if it gets at a low enough price. At one point, at what point does it become a nice calculated bet? But I think we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, completely agree with you there, Waf. And I do want to circle back to Billion Dollar Cat because I have, again, another controversial take here. I have been selling out most of my Billion Dollar Cat, and I don't believe in it, but I have one pause for concern. So let me address the pause for concern, and then I'll tell you what I have circulated that into. But my pause for concern on Billion Dollar Cat is that it's sharing a ticker symbol with Billy, Billy on Solana. And Billy is just a super cute dog with the ticker Billy. And to me, it's not great. It's not a major concern because I still think Billion Dollar Cat has that awesome, mask maker where they can apply it and template it over so many images, and that in and of itself is viral. But the Billy Solana coin has been very strong, and when I search for Billy on Twitter, that is mainly what I see these days. So it's almost as if someone had, second mover advantage or whatever, and now they're taking over. And I think more people are associating Billy with the dog on Solana than with Billion Dollar Cat on Runes. Is that a deal breaker? Not necessarily, but I do think that it's taken some of that upside away from it, ever so slightly. Again, like I don't think it's a major concern, but it's something that I thought of, and then I did see that its viral presence online started to just take a step back. It gave me a pause for concern. So that's just one thought. The real reason that had me pull the trigger is just Wizard got into a crazy buy. It went below $2.50, which is crazy to me at a $50 million valuation. We are still so delayed on Magic Internet Money. No one knows where the hell Maven's bot is, but there's enough people believe in that thesis. Even if it takes him months and years, like I don't know, maybe he's just going to chill in BRC 20s with their success over the past couple of weeks. But I just looked at them side by side and said, "Hey, Billion Dollar Cat at 30 million, which is where I sold it, or Wizard at $2.40, which is where I had to do Wizard. It just seemed like that would go to $5 plus way faster than Billion Dollar Cat would go to 60 million. In my mind, I just did those comps and said, hey, I need to pivot here. So controversial, definitely not downplaying Billion Dollar Cat. I still do have a small bag of it. But that is a pretty big rotation on part. So curious what your thoughts are there, Waf. I'm still very bullish on the community and the vision, but interested to see if you thought about that shared ticker and if that has any implications.
I haven't thought about the shared ticker, but I do see that Billy on Solana is at a significantly higher market cap, and it could have, I guess, usurped sort of like the ticker and the name. It's definitely quite possible. I mean, if we're just talking about Bitcoin, I think it's still okay just from the volume perspective, because outside of Dog Go to the Moon, it's always Billion Dollar Cat like number two in volume. So like that makes me feel like a little bit better in that respect, that the volume has like never wavered. Even like when you look back a little bit further, 7 days out or 30 days out, it's still right there in terms of volume with Dog Go to the Moon. So if I'm just going to be bearish on Billion Dollar Cat, I think I would turn kind of generally bearish on Runes in general, which I'm not at right now. So, but I definitely don't think there's nothing wrong with selling off. I think, especially if you're in profits and you wanted to take some off the table, and we see the fluctuations of how this thing moves. Like today, it's at 58 and a half sats, and it's at a $37 million market cap. I mean, just yesterday, it was probably like 20 in the 20s, right? 25 million maybe. So like it moves and it's so volatile. Like you can still play the swings and just profit off it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to make more BTC. So if your Billion Dollar Cat sells, get you more BTC, and prints you more BTC, then I think it's did its utility for you.
Yeah, really well said there, Waf, and totally agree. I mean, it's indisputable the volume that goes on Billion Dollar Cat. So by no means am I bearish on the project. But yeah, definitely just from an opportunity cost perspective, have certainly hit a pretty decent multiplier on Billion Dollar Cat from initially spotting it and getting involved. I know you got in, I think off Mint, right? You got in super early. So I think I got in a couple days later, but still had an awesome run up from sub 10 mil and just seemed like a good time to lock in the rest of what I had. Took some profits up on the way, like, when it was going up to 50 mil, though, but didn't scale out as much as I had hoped. Same with Wizard. I just really didn't sell any of it when it broke $8 last time. But this time I was like, you know what? This is just such a crazy buy level. My start of accumulating was sub five. So to see it at, sub dollars and just low twos, it was in my mind a slam dunk. I just really don't see how it would get much lower than that. I'm sure it could if Maven's bot, again, takes months more to do this, but all it's going to take is just him to make the announcement. And it's a similar basis to have we, feel about a lot of these runes. It's just, I have faith in Maven's bot that at some point he will launch the project. And I think as soon as that magic internet money ticker becomes available, that is just going to be on a moon mission to 100 million plus. So that's one of those things where you kind of have to forget you even have it and then check back in when the timing's right.
I mean, if you look over the last 30 days, like Bitcoin's been down probably 10% or so. And if you look at runes, it's like that on steroids, right? Like Dog Go to the Moon is down 26% over the last 30 days. Arsic is down 40% over the last 30 days. Pups is down 45% over the last 30 days. So I just think like I'm in a position now where I wouldn't want to sell so deep in the red. I think a rebound is like inevitable along with the Bitcoin price. So kind of will hold through the pain and just let it play out when it's green again, and then always remember to take profits. I didn't sell as much as I could have as well when it was green, and I'll just make sure that I do a little bit more this time around. But I think really ultimately these are all just derivative plays off of Bitcoin. So we had a down month in Bitcoin, we're going to have a down month in runes. I just think it's kind of natural.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beta play on Bitcoin. That's always been the case. So I don't think there's really ever going to be a time when we see the opposite happen. I mean, it might happen on a very small scale, right? If Bitcoin goes from 69,000 to 68,800, I don't really think runes are going to tank over Bitcoin dropping a small amount during a day. But on a larger time frame, if Bitcoin falls 10%, I don't really see a scenario where runes would rise up in the middle of that. But there's actually one rune that did a really great job holding on and broke through before Bitcoin even had its reversal, which is Zbit Blue Bitcoin. This is one that we've called and talked about a little on the show. I don't think we've dove too in depth about it, but Zbit has that whole ecosystem relating to gaming. It's making a narrative where they're going to have their own currency. So it's a rune that's fully spendable. They already have a whole ecosystem online. It's by the creators who have Bitcoin Machine. I know last week JD shared they did the Zbit loot boxes. That was a big release. I'm not sure if you minted any of those, WAF, but Zbit just kind of on a tear this week. It was about $10 million at its low during the low of Bitcoin, and now it's up to about $8 million market cap. So an 80% gain over the week, and again, really led the charge out even before the events this weekend, which really were a catalyst to Bitcoin gaining some strength.
Yeah, it's looking pretty well. I did mint some of those loot boxes. I do hold some Zbit. BTC machines. They're like OGs in the space, so it's like betting on the team. So congrats to them. Like they seem to be holding up pretty well. Um, I was gonna say, looking ahead, I was looking at two projects that are gonna mint later on this week. I'm just gonna drop it in chat real quick. The first one we've talked about before, and that's Aeons, and that these both mint on Friday, I believe, both of them. So Aeons, I think the art just looks really, really good. I don't know if you have any mints for that, but I think I do have an allow list for it, so I will be minting that. As well as Asura, which is also from the on-chain monkey team, so I think that might do pretty well as well. Just two of the projects that are really on my radar for this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Great shout out on Aeons there, as well as Asura. I have not heard about Asura until earlier today. Yeah, I definitely think people are hyped on the Aeons mint. I think they're doing a good job with the pricing on that. I think they announced that yesterday at 0.00018. So a reasonable price, nothing too crazy. I think it's pretty in line of some mints that I've seen that have done well. But at that mint price, I would expect them to do decently well. I think the biggest comp I have in my mind is Frux, for 0.000, sorry, yeah, 0.0001 price per mint. So this is slightly more expensive than Frux, but nothing that's really going to break the bank. I do think the art looks pretty cool, at least for the honoraries that I've seen. My only concern is that maybe they're going to look a little bit similar because the faces are a bit minimalistic. But I'm hoping that they come out and look pretty unique. It seems like they definitely have some pretty big influencers backing them. And it looks like the hype machine has been turned on for them. So I just see a ton of engagement for Aeons on Twitter. I think I got one wallet whitelisted. We'll see how that actually goes. I think with ordinals, is sometimes you just have to like show up and see if you actually got it or not. But for sure, I mean, I would be max minting these if I had the capability to. It just seems like a good risk reward. Where they're going to open up at, hard to say. I would imagine they'll probably open up in the 0.0005 to 6 range. For those, I'm looking at a volume play on them. It's going to be a little tricky because, I would expect huge volume on release. And as we before, there's a lot of mempool sniping that goes on. So a great time, if ever, to check out Mr. Bull's field report on sniping protection and just tools that you can use to assist. Um, but I think that's going to be a really good one for a volume play. I think after mint, they'll probably go up, probably pull back a little bit from people trying to take profit. And if there's a dip after mint, that would be a golden opportunity to buy as long as the market holds up until their mint date. I think that would be a really strong contender to just do a quick little flip on.
Yeah, I totally agree. So like I'm thinking about Aeons in terms of like Billy Cats, which probably was the most recent hot secondary ordinal in the past week or so. And if you look at Billy Cat's total volume, it's done 19 Bitcoin and then it kind of stalled out. And I could see Aeon kind of doing something similar where it's a big volume play upon mint, and then it probably goes up like from that point on, and then by I'll give it like between 24 and 48 hours, it's done. And if you're just playing it for Bitcoin, you need to be out within 24 to 48 hours. That's my opinion. But I do think the art looks good. I don't mind holding a few afterwards, but I definitely want to make some profit on it before I do that.
Yeah, great call there. And great shout to JD. JD, first and foremost, man, thank you as always for just compiling some projects that release for WAF and I before these shows. We'll be sure to go through that list shortly here. But JD just threw out in the voice hangout chat, MVHQ is collabing with Asura for the front mint on the 19th. So you can pop on over there to that active allow list, make sure that you follow the requirements. You got to follow a couple accounts. But then you can go ahead and enter for an allow list. So appreciate that as always, JD. Thanks so much, dude.
Yeah, JD sent us a list earlier. Let me see if I could find it and drop it in the chat as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think the only other thing I'm seeing here is a couple collections, one called Rupture, one Miners, and Pop Collective. I haven't really heard of these other projects, but yeah, I definitely seen the space on Aeons. And shout out to Blessed there for hooking it up. I know he honorary has some involvement for them, so hopefully he can do that. But he hooked up some members with some whitelists, so that was pretty chill of him. But yeah, let's go through some of these. For whatever reason, whenever we copy the link from JD, the links copy, so I'll try to get those one by one and share them in there. But any of these projects catching your eye, Waf?
You know what? Not necessarily. I guess that Bitcoin Spaceman is another one I was looking at. It seems like okay art, but nothing that's like jaw dropping or anything. I think that's gonna be like that spectacular, but might be worth the mint and flip.
Yeah, I agree. So this first project you shared here, the Rupture Mint, on July 15th, I remember when that project came out, that Rupture artist, for whatever reason, has a pretty cult following. So I think his initial project on Bitcoin ran up to like 0.05 or 0.08. It was definitely a cook for people who were able to. The whitelist was very hard to gain access to. I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see these sell out. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the art. That's not to be bare at all, honestly. Like, it's just not my style. It's a little bit too creepy for this innocent lad here. But yeah, I definitely think that that's one to keep attention to because it's a pretty big cult like following. It is pretty small community though, so I wouldn't expect a ton of volume post mint out. Hey, shout out to you, JD. Thanks for posting all the mints there, dude. Definitely appreciate it.
This pop collective looks kind of interesting. I just don't know how well it will do in the ordinal space. I mean, if you were ever a baseball card collector, and you're into some of this vintage cards, I mean, it looks kind of cool. Just don't know, from an investment standpoint or from a trading standpoint, if it's gonna be worthwhile.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. And I'm looking right now at the miners collection that JD shared. That one to me is honestly a little bit interesting. I don't see, it says all details will be revealed in days leading up to the mint. So I don't think we see a mint price on that yet. Two things to note, supply is 300. So as we mentioned with decentralized, it's tricky, right? 300, a small group of people. But something here that's of note is that it's saying it is continuously operational, perpetually changing and adapting. So of course, my mind naturally goes to Mutant Garden Cedar. I hope I remember that correctly. I don't know if you remember that collection from Ethereum, but it was a big art project back in the day. It slowly evolved over time. And those mutant garden cedar, someone please in voice chat correct me if it has a different name, but something garden seed and mutant. Those reached like a crazy market cap at one point. I think they had like a floor of 10 plus ETH, even 20 ETH. And this seems very similar. I mean, it's called miners. Again, it's perpetually changing. So to have perpetually changing art on Bitcoin as well as generative art, it is a concept that we've really haven't seen a huge prevalence of yet on ordinals. We're always waiting for that. I do think those more niche concepts don't always take off. I mean, we've seen projects like Natcats, which invented a whole theory. It didn't take off too well. I mean, it did briefly, but it didn't stick fully in the market. So, supply of 300, an interesting concept. It could be a very cool concept that emerges and people flock to. So I would totally keep an eye on that one, but I wouldn't be blindly minting. So worth doing some research and keeping an eye on, but not really going to jump on that one too quickly.
Yeah, I don't have too much to say about that one. I think not really overtly excited about upcoming mints. I do like Aeons. I do like Asura, but I'm still focused on the previous collections that we always speak about and runes. But at some point, when we are hot, then the drop schedule is going to become more important, and it's going to be a lot more opportunity. The white lists are going to be more important. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, completely agree. And then the last one on this list, the Spacemen. This is just way too many traits, man. I mean, I'm going through here. These all look incredibly similar. 3,100 supply, that's totally fine, but I don't think Spacemen is that hype anymore. We've definitely seen tons of Spacemen projects. The art is like pixelated, and I think they went a little too busy with it. If I like to see pixelated art, I just want it to be very simple. I think Frux did a great job where they had cool traits, but it was like only a few. Frux actually did have a lot of traits, but the renderings themselves were pretty easy to follow. These spacemen, at least in my mind, they are very, very busy and loud, so I am expecting those not to do too well. But still, appreciate it as always, JD. Thank you so much for compiling these lists. Always good to just keep an eye out on these projects. And this is all NFA. Any of these projects are liable to pop off, especially with bundles and runes. So for sure, keep an eye out. And usually, if you can mint, it's almost always a good play. At the very least, a low downside risk. But I think going through that's sort of our takes on how we feel about them.
Yeah. Anything else, Ross, is on your mind you need to discuss or on your radar, Bitcoin related or not?
I'll say it again. I brought it up in Waking this morning. Please look into Hamster Combat. It is not at all related to Bitcoin, but it is just so blatantly botted and so blatantly fake. Again, it has a valuation that is higher than that of Blast. Blast is a fully functional L2 that has native yield for the first time, created by a master Ponzi manipulator, and it's at a $1.7 billion market cap. Hamster Combat token trading currently at $1.9 billion. It just doesn't make sense. So I really want to share that short report. Not financial advice at all. Definitely take a look and see how you're feeling. But for me, it's just like a no brainer. I gotta fade that.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen it before. I know what you're talking about. I've seen like their YouTube has like millions and millions of views, and the video is only like an hour old, so you know it's all, you know, scammed and botted and paid for views and stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what it is lately. Like, I just think shorting's kind of fun. I mean, you have to wait in the right time. Like, it's pretty easy to get wrecked because you just have, as the price goes up, you can certainly get smashed there in the wrong direction. But for something like this, it's just like when numbers are lying to you, it's pretty funny to see. I mean, it would have to be more viral than some of the biggest pop stars in the world and go and see the content on your page, and you're like, "What the fuck is this?" So, yeah, I hope it's a Terra Luna situation and it goes straight to zero. That would be insane.
Yeah. Well, I don't mean to do like a harsh stop here, but I have like a mini emergency going going on at my house. I gotta cut this short, Ross. Uh, my daughter has a fever and she needs to go to urgent care. So I'm sorry, I gotta cut this a little short today. But I'll be back next Monday to do the show.
Oh yeah, man. No apologies needed. Let's wrap there, dude. Hope everything gets better. Hope she feels better. And thanks as always, dude. We'll touch base next week.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you later.
All right, man. See ya.